Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to prepare your surface for painting. Like I said, we're using oils. Even though they're water soluble, they still act like oils. So if you try to paint with oil paint on regular paper, okay, the oil is going to soak into the paper, okay? So, and you know, you're like, oh, what's the big deal about oil soaking into paper? The thing is, let's say you paint a masterpiece like your face, and but in a bit, that oil will soak into the paper and it will weaken the paper and all your hard work will be destroyed. Okay, so we want to find a way so that your work is protected and lasts for a very long time. And what you need is some sort of primer, okay? And that's why we use gesso. In the old days, old times, they used something called rabbit skin glue. And some artists still use it today, but it's a long process. It's complicated. You got to actually cook it in a pot, and it can go terribly wrong. It can start to crack. That's one thing you have to be careful with gesso. It can crack. Mostly, like these days, like even the cheaper ones are pretty stable. Like you can find a lot. Like you don't have to get the best quality gesso. And you can find it in any art store, Michael's, Hobby Lobby, and it's not that expensive, so please get it. I know these are primed, but it is part of the learning outcomes, how to prepare a surface, and I require that you know how to gesso a surface. So, like I said, it's kind of like white acrylic paint. It's very plasticky, very chalky, but let's say you're using just prime canvas. It's gessoed, it's primed, you can paint on it, it won't soak through, okay? Basically, canvas is made out of linen or cotton, and they stretch it on these wooden bars or stretchers, okay? Wooden frame. And painting too, you know, if you want to learn how to, you know, stretch canvas onto a wooden bar, just let me know and I can show you, but we have to meet somewhere like on campus. So just letting you know that. But if you have a brush, okay, preferably like a wider, big brush. This is kind of small. I just stole this from my boyfriend, but take a brush. Ideally, your surface should be covered, protected. Like if you have like an old linen cloth or like bed cloth, put it down on the table first. This gesso, if it gets on your fingers or your clothes especially, it won't come off, okay? I've tried to like scratch it off. When it's wet, when it's dry, it just stays white, okay? Your fingers, it will stick on there like paint. So, so it's like this white paint, and then you want to give it just a thin layer, okay? Go all the way to the edges. This isn't the best brush for gessoing. If you know those sponge brushes that are like 50 cents each at Walmart, right? That you can just like throw away. Those are really good because they're like smooth, they're flat. They won't leave like gesso texture like this. But give it a layer of gesso. It's just like preparing or priming a surface to work on. Okay, so one layer this way, okay? And you can go all the way to the edges if possible. And then after that, after you're covered, just let it chill and dry, okay? It's gonna take a while depending on, well, the time it dries out, the time it takes to dry out, depends on kind of like the humidity and the temperature of the room, okay? So if I say like, please prepare 5 gessoed surfaces, prepared surfaces, which you'll need probably for each assignment, like small surfaces like this. You want to get these done beforehand. You can't just start painting on it when it's, you know, wet. It's going to take at least an hour to dry, 30 minutes maybe. And you can, you know, use a hair dryer to make it dry quicker, but just let it dry like this, okay? You can leave it flat. I'm going to leave it here. And then after that, get some sandpaper, sand it down, okay? And then give it another layer of gesso on top, okay? So that's for gessoing pre-prime canvas, which I really recommend that you do, okay? Please do, actually. Put this here. The next thing I want to show you is how to gesso watercolor paper or like multimedia paper. So if you have like a board or like, board, you're gonna need a board like this or some sort of flat surface. You're gonna get your watercolor paper. It doesn't have to be big, like I said. Painting on different surfaces is different. So painting on canvas versus paper versus panel versus cardboard versus wood. It's all very different experience, okay? You're gonna take some masking tape and you're gonna tape it down. And this is important because gesso is made out of water, okay? And it will warp your paper a bit. You wanna leave a nice, maybe 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch border on your paper like this. Just all around your paper. And if you have, you know, like 3 to 4 pieces that will fit on your board, you know, you can just get all of them done. Boom, 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 boom. And then, you know, work on like 4 at a time. But I'm just gonna do one for now. Tape it all down. And like I said, you're gonna need this for the Voluscale homework, right? That you're gonna start next class. And you're going to also need gessoed surfaces, small surfaces for like quick painting studies for each assignment. So expect to, you know, try to have like 5 of these small ones for each assignment, okay? And it says on the syllabus, like I will say, please prepare, you know, 5 to 6 small surfaces. Same thing, you're gonna gesso the paper and it's gonna warp a bit, but don't be alarmed. All you have to do is like when it dries, just kind of flatten it out or re-tape it down, okay? But watercolor paper, it will, even though it's thick, it will warp, okay? Just gesso it down. Paper especially needs at least 3 coats, okay? 2 coats if it's like super thick gesso, but paper, you need to make sure it is sturdy, like the priming is done right, or else paper is weaker than, I don't know, maybe canvas, linen. So at least 2 to 3 layers of this, okay? So that's that. If you want to save your brush, right, you're gonna gesso again in like what, an hour or 2? Grab a paper towel, not paper towel, paper bag, or like plastic wrap, and then wrap your brush, okay, so it stays moist, and you can just take it out, gesso it, and then put it back in and give it a 3rd layer of gesso, okay? Because this thing dries out pretty quickly. Oils tend to dry slower than acrylics, like water-based media. So just be aware of that. Okay, I'm gonna leave this here for now. Okay. And just let this dry. See, it's already starting to warp a bit. I guess you can't see it, but I'm gonna just chill. Okay, so that's gessoing. Same thing goes for panels, same thing goes for cardboard, for wood. For wood, like just raw flat wood, you're gonna probably need like a kind of a varnish before you prime because it is very porous and gesso can warp the wood a lot. So that's that. Gesso, okay? Gesso, brush. Sometimes if you get really good gesso, the gesso will be super thick. This one's not as thick, it's a bit liquidy. But gesso you can also water down a bit. Just thin it down with water if it's extra gloopy, okay?